Hi, I'm Robi, also known as ambroscrochet somewhere on the internet, and today I'm going to show you how to crochet this pride wheel. Here's what you will need. Some yarn in a variety of colors. I went with a light blue, white and pink. You will also need a crochet hook to match your yarn, so in my case that's going to be a 3mm crochet hook, some pins, scissors, tapestry needle or needle and some thread, 10mm or 12mm safety eyes, or a needle and black thread if you wish to embroider the eyes, and then some doy stuffing. Here are the stitches we will be working with. So a magic ring, not technically a stitch, but we will need it, single crochet, a single crochet increase, a single crochet decrease, and then chains. Okay, so I'm going to start by using my light blue color. Of course you can choose whatever color you want your wheel to be, but I'm going to start with this one, and we're going to start as usual with a magic ring, and then we're going to start by making 9 chains. Okay, so we've made our 9 chains, and now we're going to start from the second chain from the hook, so the 8th chain that you've made, and we're going to make 1 single crochet in each of the next 7 chains for a total of 7 single crochets. Okay, so once we have our 7 single crochets done, we still have one chain left, and in that chain we're going to make 3 single crochets, so 3 stitches all in that last chain. And as you can see, by working 3 single crochets into that last chain, and then I'm just going to close the magic ring again, we are basically now working on the underside of that starting chain, okay, and that's what we want. So we are now going to make 1 single crochet in each of the next 6 chains. Okay, so once again we have our last chain, and we're going to make 2 single crochets in that last chain. Okay, so now we want to keep working in rounds, and the first thing we're going to do in that first single crochet basically of round 1, so now we move on to round 2, and the first thing we're going to do is 1 increase into that first single crochet, so 1 increase, okay, and then we're going to make 1 single crochet in each of the next 6 single crochets for a total of 6 single crochets. And now that we've worked those 6 single crochets, we are going to increase once, so into the next single crochet we are going to increase by working 2 single crochets in the same stitch, and then we're going to make 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and then once again we're going to increase in the next stitch, so 1 and 2. And then we're going to make again 1 single crochet in each of the next 6 single crochets. Okay, and then we have our last 2 single crochets to cover, so we're going to first make 1 increase, and then into the next and final stitch we're going to make 1 single crochet. So this is round 2 done, and we have 22 single crochets. Round 3 is just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch, so at the end we're still going to have 22 single crochets, and I'll see you when I have those done. Okay, so now that round 3 is done as well, we can move on to round 4, which is going to start with a 1 single crochet. So in the next stitch we're just going to make 1 single crochet, and then we have 2 increases back to back. So first one increase, and then again another increase, and then we have one single crochet in each of the next 6 single crochets. Okay, and then we have again 2 increases, so one increase in one stitch and then the second increase in the next stitch, and then we have just lost it. Okay, and then we have just one single crochet into the next stitch, and then again we have 2 increases, so one increase and then the second increase, and then again one single crochet in each of the next 6 single crochets, and then lastly we have the last 2 increases, so one increase and then the next one. And now we move on to the next round, which is just going to be one single crochet in each of the next 30 single crochets. So now we have 30 single crochets. The next round is just going to be one single crochet in each single crochet for a total of again 30 single crochets. So I'll see you when I have those done. Okay, so now that round 5 is done, we can move on to round 6, which is just going to be 4 single crochets. So 2, 3, 4, and then one increase repeated 6 times, so for the whole round, and at the end we're going to have 36 single crochets. So I'll see you when I have those done. Okay, so now that I'm done with round 6, I'm going to move on to round 7, but this is where I'm going to switch colors. Now when it comes to switching colors, it really depends on which combination of colors you want to do. I'm going to make the transparent flag, so it does have 5 stripes, which means that because the body has a total of 28 rounds, I have to basically use 6 or 5 rounds for each stripe. So I'm going to be using 6 for the edges basically, because they're a little bit less visible, if you will, and then 5 for the stripes in the middle. So this is where I'm going to change colors in the beginning of round 7, and I'm just going to use my pink, and this round is just going to be one single crochet in each stitch for a total of 36 single crochets. So I will see you at the end of round 7. Okay, so I'm done with round 7, so we can now move on to round 8, which is going to be 5 single crochets and then one increase. So this is 3, 4, 5, and then one increase repeated 6 times, so for the whole round, and at the end we're going to have 42 single crochets. So I'll see you when I have those done. Okay, so now that I'm done with round 8, we can move on to rounds 9 to 13. So the next 5 rounds are just going to be one single crochet in each stitch. Of course, if you need to change colors, as I will, we will just change them while working, so at the end of one round before the next one. So the next 5 rounds, just one single crochet in each stitch, so at the end of each round we will still have 42 single crochets, and I'll see you when I have those done. Okay, so now that I'm done with round 13, we can move on to round 14. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make one single crochet in each of the next 9 single crochets. Okay, so that being done, we move on to the next step, which is going to be making 3 single crochets and then one decrease. So 1, 2, 3, and then one decrease repeated for a total of 6 times. So at the end we're going to have 24 single crochets at the end of just this section. Okay, this will not complete the round, so don't worry if it doesn't, it shouldn't. So we're just going to make these 5 more times. Okay, so that being done, we now close the round by making 3 single crochets in the last 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, and 3, so 1 in each, of course. So this way we complete round 14, and now we move on to rounds 15 and 16, which is just going to be one single crochet in each round, in each stitch. So at the end of each round, so round 15 and round 16, we will still have 36 single crochets. So I'll see you when I have those done. Okay, so I'm done with round 16, so we can now move on to round 17, which is where I'm going to again switch colors and go back to my pink yarn. And round 17 is going to start with one single crochet in each of the next 8 single crochets, okay? Okay, and with that being done, we move on to the second section, if you will, which is going to be 2 single crochets and then 1 decrease. Again, we're going to repeat these sections, this section 6 times, so at the end we're going to have 18 single crochets, but again, we're not going to close the round by making this, we're going to close the round later on. So this is just going to be 2 single crochets, 1 decrease, repeated 6 times for a total of 18 single crochets. Okay, and with that done, we now close the round by making 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 single crochets. And that's going to be the end of round 17. We now move on to round 18, which is just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. So at the end we will still have 30 single crochets. So I'll see you when I have round 18 done. Okay, so I'm done with round 18. Before we move on to round 19, we're going to place the safety eyes. As you can see, I've already placed my pins where we'll have to place them. It's just so that I don't have to count on camera. So basically what we want to do is we want to place the safety eyes between round 6 and 7, which is easy for me to see because it's right where the color change happens. So between round 6 and 7, and then you want to count 6 stitches from the beginning of the 6th round. So you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you count 6 stitches. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So right here is going to be the first eye, and then you count it on the other side as well, and you're going to have the placement of the second eye as well. So I'm just going to insert the safety eyes. I'm going to use 12 millimeters, but you can use 10 millimeters as well, or just black thread and a needle if you want to embroider them. Okay, so I'm going to secure them later. And now we move on to round 19, which is going to be 3 single crochets and then 1 decrease, repeated 6 times in total. So 2, 3, and then 1 decrease, repeated 6 times. So at the end of round 19 we're going to have 24 single crochets, and I will see you when I have those done. Okay, so I'm done with round 19, so we can now move on to round 20. Before we move on to round 20, you can start stuffing the body now, and when you stuff the body and when you stuff this amigurumi, you want to make sure that you're following the shape that we gave the amigurumi. So basically, if you remember during these rounds, especially the ones where we decreased, so right here, we only decreased on the top and not on the bottom, so that the bottom of the body of the wheel is a little bit more flat, which is the shape that I wanted it to have. So when you go and stuff it, you want to make sure that the bottom of the wheel kind of stays a little bit flat. So I invite you to just shape it with your hands as well. So we can move on to round 20, which is just going to be 2 single crochets and then 1 decrease. So 1, 2, and then 1 decrease, repeated 6 times in total. So at the end we're going to have 18 single crochets, and I will see you when I have those done. Okay, so I'm done with round 20 as well, and as you can see I've started stuffing the wheel. So now we can move on to round 21, which is just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch for a total of 18 single crochets. So I will see you when I have round 21 done as well. Okay, now that I'm done with round 21, we can move on to round 22, which is going to be, first of all, 1 single crochet and 1 decrease, repeated 3 times. So 1 single crochet and then 1 decrease repeated again 3 times. So this is 1, and 3. Okay, and then we move on and we're going to make 2 single crochets and 1 increase this time, again 3 times. So it's 2 single crochets and then 1 increase repeated 3 times, and that will complete the round. Okay, so now that I'm done with round 22, we can move on to round 23, which is just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. So we'll still have 18 single crochets. So at the end of round 23, we will still have 18 single crochets as well. Okay, so as you can see, I've also changed colors for the last time, so I'm done with round 23. We can now move on to round 24, which is just going to be 1 single crochet and then 1 decrease repeated again 6 times. So at the end of the round, we're going to have 12 single crochets, and I will see you when I have those done. Okay, so I'm done with round 24, so we can now move on to round 25, which is going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. So at the end of round 25, we will still have 12 single crochets, and I will see you when I have those done. Okay, so now that I'm done with round 25, and before we move on to round 26, we're going to stuff the end of the body, and I would suggest that you keep stuffing as you go. So basically, when it comes to stuffing this part of the body, what you want to do is, again, you want to be very careful about following the shape of the amigurumi and not just kind of letting the stuffing, you know, take over basically. So what I pay attention to here is that there is kind of like a line that goes from the bottom of the body to the tail that is angled upwards. So the reason why in one round we decreased and then increased is because I wanted to create this angle when it comes to the tail, so that it's, you know, angled upwards. So you want to kind of follow that shape with the stuffing as well, so by basically making sure that the stuffing doesn't you know, interrupts this line basically. And then you also want to adjust it so that it's you know, nice when it comes to the shape also on the top of the tail. So you might have to adjust it a little bit, and that's perfectly fine. So once that is done, we can move on to round 26, which is going to be 2 single crochets and 1 decrease. So it's going to be 2 single crochets, so 1, 2, and then 1 decrease repeated 3 times in total. So at the end we're going to have 9 single crochets, and I will see you when I have those done. And don't forget to keep stuffing as you go with these last rounds. Okay, so now that round 26 is done, we can move on to round 27, which is just going to be 1 single crochet, 1 decrease repeated 3 times. I'm not going to show you because with these, like working at this angle, it's a little bit difficult to show you when it becomes, you know, smaller and smaller. So it's just going to be 1 single crochet, 1 decrease repeated 3 times. So at the end we're going to have 6 single crochets, and I will see you when I have those done. Okay, so I'm done with round 27. We can now move on to round 28. I've also finished stuffing the tail. So round 28 is just going to be 1 single crochet, 1 decrease repeated twice. So at the end we're going to have 4 single crochets, and again I can't really show you because it's a little bit difficult to, but just 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, and that's going to be the last round. So I'm going to show it to you once it's done. Okay, so now that the last round is done as well, I'm just going to slip stitch, and then we're going to just cut the yarn, just leave a little bit of a tail so that we can adjust the last round. Again, if you need to, you can kind of shape the tail again, because, you know, by closing it you might mess it up a little bit. And this is the body of the whale done. Okay, so now we can move on to making the fins. So we're going to make 2 of them, and I'm going to use the pink yarn. It really depends on which color you have, you know, corresponding to where you're going to place the fins. So for me it's going to be the pink yarn. So I'm going to start with the magic ring, and round 1 is just going to be 6 single crochets into the magic ring. Okay, and once round 1 is done, we're just going to close the magic ring, and round 2 is just going to be 1 single crochet in each single crochet. So at the end of round 2 we will still have 6 single crochets. Okay, and now that round 2 is done as well, if it curls upwards, don't worry about it, it's normal. You can just push it back again. So we can now move on to round 3, which is going to be 1 increase in each single crochet for a total of 6 increases. So at the end of round 3 we're going to have 12 single crochets. Okay, and now that I'm done with round 3, we can move on to rounds 4 to 6. So the next 3 rounds are just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. So at the end of rounds 4, 5 and 6 we will still have 12 single crochets, and I'll see you when I have those done. Okay, so now that round 6 is done, we can move on to the last step of this fin. So what we want to do is we want to fold the fin in half like so, having the last stitch on one of the 2 edges, and then you want to single crochet the 2 edges together. So at the end we're going to have 6 single crochets. Now to be exact, I'm going to have 5 single crochets and then 2 loose single crochets, because I don't really like to single crochet. Like if you look, you would have to go back here and single crochet in the one right in front of it, but it looks a little bit awkward and a little bit weird, so I don't like to crochet the first couple of single crochets, so I go to the next one. Okay, so I go to the second single crochet and basically the corresponding one on the other side, which is the third one from the hook, if you will. So I'm just going to do that and then repeat it again for the next single crochets, for the next couples of single crochets. Okay, and that's going to be the fin done. So you want to make 2 of these, and then we're going to cut, leaving a little bit of a tail so that we can sew it to the body. So this is the fin done. Okay, so the last step of this pattern is going to be making the last 2 pieces of the tail, basically. So I'm going to use my light blue. Again, it depends on which color you have on the tail of your whale. So I have my light blue, so I'm going to use my light blue. So I'm going to start with a magic ring, and then we're going to make 6 single crochets into the magic ring. Okay, that's round 1 done. So we can now move on to round 2, which is just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. So again, at the end of round 2 we're going to have 6 single crochets. Okay, that is round 2 done. Again, it doesn't matter if it curls a little bit upwards, that's perfectly normal. You can just push it back yourself, and we can now move on to round 3, which is going to be 1 single crochet and then 1 increase repeated 3 times. So at the end we're going to have 9 single crochets. Okay, and now that round 3 is done as well, we can move on to round 4, which is just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch for a total of 9 single crochets. Okay, and the last step for the tail as well is going to be to single crochet the 2 edges together. Now, because this is an odd number, I'm going to just leave the last single crochet that I made alone, and I'm going to be making 4 single crochets. So joining the two sides. Okay, and once that is done, again, I'm going to cut, leaving just a little bit of a tail so that we can sew it to the body, and this is also the tail done. Okay, so now that we have all our pieces, we can start with the assembling portion. So we're going to start with the fins. There are many pieces to assemble, luckily, so we're going to start with the fins. So I like to sew them so that the closing single crochets, so the front of the closing single crochets faces upwards. Of course, you can sew them as you wish. And in order to sew the fins, what I do is I start by placing them right underneath the eye so that they are kind of perpendicular to the body, as you can see hopefully right here. And then you want to slide them backwards a little bit, so towards the tail, until the beginning of the fin basically is one round away from the eye. So right here, I can't tell you the exact round because it depends on the size of the eyes that you've chosen, but basically as you can see, my eye finishes kind of like here, so there is one free round and then the fin, and the same goes for the fin on the other side. When it comes to placing the pieces of the tail, what you want to do is, first of all, you want to use this tail so that you can kind of like close this hole a little bit better. And then what you want to do is you want to place the base of the triangle, which is actually the end of the tail. You want to place it so that one edge basically coincides with the end of the tail, like this, and then just let it fall backwards wherever it falls. And you want to angle it so that it follows the angle of the tail, so something like this. Okay, so you don't want to place it too upwards or too downwards. You want to place it so that it follows the angle of the tail, like so. Okay, so I'm going to see you when I have all of these pieces attached to the body so that you can see them a little bit better too. Okay, here you have it. So hopefully you can now see a little bit better what I meant when I was giving you instructions about sewing the tail. So as you can see, the fins of the tail are angled in the same direction as the tail itself. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If there is something that isn't clear, please feel free to leave me a question in the comment sections. You can also find me on my social media, so I'm Robi on Instagram and ambroscrochet on Facebook. Leave me a comment or a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more tutorials, let me know if there are any tutorials you'd like to see from me, and until next time, happy Pride Month and bye!